Bonjour et bienvenue à Gourmet. Today, we are working with Mastering the Art of French Cooking, where we'll be making coquilles Saint-Jacques à la Provençale, or scallops gratinéed with wine, garlic, and herbs. Um, we're in the seafood chapter, so a lot of it was kind of similar. It was just fish and white wine. So I decided to do a little something different, um, and I went with scallops and wine instead. So that's what we're going to be making. I think it'll turn out good. I don't see any reason why not. Let's get started. To begin, we need to have a third cup of minced yellow onion. Admittedly, I'm just going to do this whole onion. I don't feel like measuring it. It'll be fine if it's extra oniony to me. We'll need a tablespoon of butter, some shallots or green onion, and a clove of mixed garlic. And we'll end up cooking all of that in here. So let me go ahead and just to start, before we cut our onion, I'm going to go ahead and cut our butter. This is that Kerrygold Irish butter. I don't know which way it goes. um, but that's what we're using. Once again, a more European style butter. And I'm just going to eyeball what I think is a tablespoon and stick that in our pot. And I'll set this to the side because this recipe is going to use a lot more butter. Now, I'm going to see if I remember how to mince an onion without having to do it all the way. I guess dice it is more what I'm going for. But small dices. So we'll see if I remember this from any of the culinary classes I've taken. You cut the onion in half, and then you can't really tell because I know I'm covering it. But with a flat palm, we're going to slice a couple times across the onion down towards this end. That's why we wanted to keep the roots on so that it stays intact. And then if I remember correctly, and it's kind of naturally how I do it, you kind of cut down at an angle. So you can see I definitely didn't get all the way, but that's close enough for what I need because I'm not trying to cut all the way through the onion just yet. And then we go down this way. And this has been a long time since I've cut an onion this way. And you can kind of see that we're already getting some nice little dices, but since we need it minced, I'm just going to go really, really thin with this right now. And then I'll just run my knife through it a couple times at the end. There we go. And I've got this little bit. You can save that for soups or something. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to throw it away. I know it's a little wasteful, but I don't have any use for the butt of an onion right now. And then I'm just going to run my knife through this a couple times. Chopping it. We are sauteing these, so I don't think that has to be like super, super small. But we are putting scallops in here, so that's it. And now that I look at this, I think that's quite a bit of onion. So maybe I will just use half. It's more onion than I thought I was going to get out of this one, which is no complaint. And I'm just throwing them into the pot like so, trying to not cut my fingers on the knife because I wouldn't tell anybody to do it the way that I just did it, but that's how I always do it. I don't have like a table scraper or anything, and it just is easier. And then before we melt this and get this going, I am actually going to go ahead and mince some green onion. This is just green onion I got from my garden out front of my house. So I'm going to cut these off. I might save these for later with the onion. Do something fun with that in a minute. And I'm just going to really small kind of go through it a couple times. I'm going to call that a day because we only need 1.5 tablespoons. And I think we're pretty close to that. I might just for good measure cut a little bit more. run my knife through it. I know it's not all equal, it's not all even, but I'm good with that. I'm going to set these guys aside. So what we're doing with our onions is we're going to cook them until they're translucent. Oh. We're going to cook them until they're translucent, um, and not brown them at all. It's the goal. So really want to keep an eye on these and stir. We're going to cook them for about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll add in our green onion, garlic, and cook for a minute more and then set aside. So that's where we are right now. Just gonna wait for these. This is a scallop dish, so I don't think any. I think none of it's gonna take really long to cook. I don't think. I think all the cooking is gonna go pretty quick. But I'm gonna go ahead, just work on this. You guys have seen onions and butter melt and cook before. I know I've probably showed it on this channel too. So I'm gonna not make you watch that. And I'll be back when we're ready to add in salt, pepper, minced garlic, all that kind of good stuff. Where our onions are, you can see we started to get a little bit of browning going. So I think it's time to add our garlic and our minced green onion. So I'm just gonna, we need a minced clove of garlic. I'm obviously just using pre-minced. So I'm just adding a spoonful, and then I'm gonna take my knife, gather up my green onion, add that in there, and we'll give these guys a quick stir. I gotta say, it smells wonderful. I'm just over here, just like ready to eat this, even though there's literally nothing else to it but garlic, onions, and butter. But it smells good. I'm gonna turn this off the heat, set this to the side, and we're done with that step. Welcome back. So now we're gonna get our scallops ready. I'm not gonna force you to watch this whole thing because I think that's a little unnecessary. We have a lot to do. But we have 1.5 pounds of these big scallops here. I just got these from the grocery store. So it's not the cheapest. I definitely could have gone cheaper, but oh well. It is what it is. But we are going to cut these into 1/4 inch thick slices. Um, so I'm just going to assume that's probably like, about 3 slices per scallop. And then what we're going to do is we have this bowl here. The recipe says to dry the scallops, cut them, and then sprinkle with salt and pepper, and then roll in flour and shake off the excess flour. I went ahead, they are dried on a paper towel over here, but I went ahead and added my salt and pepper into the flour, and that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to roll these guys in here and then set them aside on the paper plate. And then we'll get through all of these. Like I said, we have 1.5 pounds of scallops, so we have quite a few scallops here. But I'm excited. I love scallops, so I don't think this is going to be bad. But I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. This is about what we're going for. I think that at least that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, so I will see you guys when the scallops are ready to be put in the pan. Here we are. We are going to start the scallops. Here they are, all cooked or all coated in the flour and the pepper and everything. We're going to melt our butter. It's 2 tablespoons of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil in a Dutch oven. This says skillet. I don't really see the difference. But it'll all be fine. But we're going to saute, once this gets melted, we're going to saute the scallops in here for about 2 minutes and brown them lightly. And then we're going to add a little bit of vermouth. We're going to add 1/2 cup of vermouth and 3 tablespoons of water. Once again, this is the vermouth I have. And then water is water. So I just got that from the tap. I am going to measure out my vermouth and I probably have just a little over half a cup. Um, so I'm going to add all of it because that'll finish it off, and I don't want to wait and keep a little bit. Um, and then what we'll do is we'll add half a bay leaf and then an eighth teaspoon of thyme into this, and then that'll kind of be it. We'll spoon the everything in there. Yeah, I think this one's gonna be good. I am gonna use the same spoon from our onion mixture just to do this because the onions, once the scallops are in here and they get cooked a little bit, then we'll add the onions in back in with this. So I don't see the point in dirtying anything else. But I am excited. We've got this going. I'm just dumping these guys in. I'm gonna spread them out and hope for the best, really. Keep this pretty high heat. I might have added them a little too early, but that's okay. It doesn't look like much right now. But I'm going to let these kind of brown and saute on one side, and then I'll stir them and brown them on the other. I think I added them too soon, but oh well. And we're definitely building up a little bit of crust on the bottom. We want that. That's just going to be flavor for our sauce. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and call it. I know that they're not cooked all the way through all of them, but I don't want to overcook them either. So here's part of the vermouth. Here's the water. Here's the rest of the vermouth. And I'm just going to give this a stir to get all of that good brown off the bottom. It has a name. I can't think of what it's called right now. But when you're cooking, if you get all of that like brown off the bottom, it's just extra flavor for your dish, which is always exciting. And you can see that it's kind of building a sauce for these, which is what we want. Okay, we're going to add, this is our onion mixture. Just going to, we have had it kind of cooling to the side so we could do the scallops. There's our onion mixture. I'm going to go ahead, maybe turn it down a little bit. Put in half a bay leaf because that's all it says to do, so I'll just do that. And then we're going to do an eighth teaspoon of thyme, which means we're going to do more than an eighth teaspoon, but that's what it is. And then we'll give this a stir. I'm going to turn off the heat. Give this a stir. It smells good. I think this is going to be pretty delicious. It's kind of built a nice sauce in there. Everything's really well coated. And that's why we definitely coated them in flour, the scallops in flour first, so that it would kind of stick together. And then I'm just kind of going to push this back a little bit, get it off the heat. And welcome back. So here's my little dish. Like I said, I don't have scallop shells, and I couldn't find any that I was going to be able to bake in time. So I'm using this, which is not correct, but it's what I have. Here, just a reminder, is what our scallop dish looks like. It actually looks really good. I think it's going to be delicious. I'm going to go ahead and put a nice scoop in here. I did butter my dish. It didn't say you had to, but I thought that would just add a little something to it. I have grated Swiss cheese over here. So I'm going to go ahead, sprinkle that on top. And then we're going to put this under a broiler for a couple minutes and take it out, and that's going to be the dish. I will see you when we're ready to eat, actually. Just taking them out of the oven, and here is what they look like. You can kind of tell. I think I was almost about to spill some butter, but they smell amazing. They look nice and cheesy. I'm just gonna go ahead and see if I can get one with some cheese. Here you go. Here's a bite. They are definitely super hot. You know, they're just out of the broiler. But let us taste. They're great. They're great. I mean, really, what's not to like here? Obviously, if you don't like scallops or seafood, this isn't for you. But they're cooked really nicely, which is exciting because sometimes that's hard to do. And I thought they might be overcooked a little bit, but they're not. They're cooked really nicely. They, the butter, the garlic, the onion, all of that is really complimentary. The vermouth goes well with it. It made a nice sauce. Um, Even broiling it with the cheese, that was a nice touch. So these are delicious. Now, my only problem really with this recipe, the scallops were really expensive. Um, I think when I bought them, and I could have planned ahead and maybe found like a local fishmonger to go to maybe get a better price. But I just ended up going to the grocery store, and it was like $25 a pound for scallops. So, you know, I spent like 30 something dollars just on the scallops. Luckily, the only other thing I had to buy was the onion. I owned everything else, so that worked in my favor. So, you know, it's, but if you don't have everything, this is expensive, which I knew going in. Obviously, it's seafood. Seafood's not ever going to be the cheapest, um, unless you get it straight from the source, which I'm in Central Florida, so it's a little harder to do. But I really like this one. It was delicious. It really was not hard to make. It was really easy to make. Even cutting the scallops, I thought was going to take a long time, and it didn't. So I think just for the price, I'm going to give it an 8 because it's not cheap. And if you're trying to feed more people with this, I think the cookbook says it serves 6. I think realistically, closer to 4 or 5. Um, but maybe that's because I like big servings. I don't know what to tell you. I want to eat the food. I don't want to just sit there and have 3 bites. But but I really did like this one. I think I'm going to give it an 8. Um, Super easy to make. Like I said, the ingredients not that hard to find, just expensive. And yeah, it's not like I'm going to make this all the time, but this is something that I might think about, like switching the scallops for like chicken to make it a little more price friendly. And I think I would like to play with the herbs and spices in it a little bit. Obviously, this is a cookbook from a while back, so I don't think that they have the same flavor profiles that we have now. It's a little plain, but it is spot on. It is delicious. Don't get me wrong. I just think it could be enhanced a little more in that area as well. But that's my review, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Au revoir.